Hello everyone, Toby from abletondrummer.com here. I want to show you how you can use the Nektar Pacer to create really flexible MIDI mappings and control Ableton Live to, well, you could say an unseen extent. So let me quickly show you. I have my Nektar Pacer here and I'm using my Max4Live plugin here, the Pacer controller. And I have set up certain controls. So for example, I can switch the metronome on and on. I can start the transport. I can stop the transport. I could, I could navigate through my scenes. So I have like those set up here, previous scene and next scene. And you can see it's selecting different scenes. I could even set up certain scenes to be fired here by name. And now the magic comes. I could now switch to the next preset and the same buttons here. So if I go to preset number 2, you can see the same buttons are doing something completely different because I've set them up different here. So for example, if I'm in arrangement, and you can see on preset number 1, I've set up marker 1 to be triggered here via this one. So now this is selected. And if I go to preset number 2, I set up marker 2 here to be selected via the same pedal. So this way you are able to set up to 100 different presets, which you can automate, and different layers. You can just say, okay, if I'm in part 1 of my set, I want to control this. So obviously this is great for live looping as well in conjunction with my one button live looper. I will do a separate video for that one. You will find the links in the video description. So this video is going to be a little bit long because I want to show you step by step how you're setting this up. If you just want to dive in directly and get the device, the Max4Live device, you can follow the link in the video description as well. Okay, so let me explain you how this works. So let's start with the Pacer, Nektar Pacer. So per default, the Nektar Pacer is a great tool already to control Ableton Live, but it comes with some MIDI remote scripting, and it's a little bit limited, or not saying limited, but the beauty about Ableton Live is the ability to customize it towards your needs. And if you're using a MIDI remote script, it's already going into one direction, and this might work for some people, but a lot of people do customization and they are using Ableton Live when they are performing live. They're using Ableton Live to create their setup and to do some custom stuff. So obviously you are able to MIDI map things via sending MIDI notes or MIDI CCs from your Pacer here as well. So but then you are only able to access some parameters, and you can't do flexible MIDI mappings like the different presets we got on the Max4Live device here. So obviously this is not for everyone, but if you want to create custom things, custom mappings on your Pacer, which should change at some point in your Ableton Live set, or if you want to save stuff globally and recall presets of things you want to control, you should check out my Max4Live device. Okay, so let's start with how to set it up. So first of all, we need to understand like what is the Pacer doing, what does it send. So for this, we got a great tool to reprogram the Pacer and to set the MIDI notes right. So for example, we have this thing here. I will put a link in the video description. It's third-party editor, online editor. You would need to use Chrome or a MIDI capable web browser here. So I would suggest just use Chrome and you are fine. So what is this doing? This is actually showing us the different presets we got on here. So if I select A1, if I select A2, you know, they are being shown down here, the different foot switches here, and we are able to select and to edit what kind of MIDI messages we want to send. So I prepared a file which you can use, which you can load straight onto there, and then the MIDI mappings would be right. So if we have a look, I set this up on A1, which is the first preset here. So if we have a look, you can scroll the different presets here, and I've set it up on A1, and this is where you can send my file there. Okay, one important thing here, you are not able to only import settings for one slot on the pacer. You're only able to import settings for all presets for the whole pacer. So that means if you want to load my preset, you're gonna change all of your pacer. That's not a problem if you haven't changed stuff before, and if you just bought your pacer and you just wanted to send out MIDI notes to use my Max4Live device, for example. If you have changed stuff before, you want to back up your pacer and then load my preset on there to test it. So you can just load the whole preset file on there, and on the slot A1 you will find, on the first slot you will find the note MIDI section I made for the pacer. All the other slots will have the same presets like the pacer has when it's being shipped, like when you buy it, like the factory resets. Only the first one, the A1, will be the one you can use for my Max4Live device. And we go to import, export, and we go to load file, and then you would need to select the file you're gonna get when you download the pacer MIDI foot controller from my Gumroad page, and then you can just open this one, and you then need to click to send to pacer, and this will send all the different MIDI settings for the pacer over. If we press send, you can see it's now showing load sys, which stands for sysx, which is a format for MIDI. And when it's done, it's gonna blink. It should blink, and you need to select the preset A1 here, where you send it to, the slot where you send it to, and it will show the name control, which is the name I put in. And then your pacer will look like this. If you want to set up different MIDI notes, obviously you can do this yourself if you want to do so. So my device is listening to MIDI notes. So what I did here, if we go to the first, for the slot for the first pedal here, you can see step 1. I only set up one step, or steps in one shot, and it's sending over as C1, and I set the lights, the LED here, to be dim red, and when you press those, you know, they are lighting up red. I've set those two up here for up and down, and this will come later on when we have a look on the controlling and changing presets on my Max4Live device. So this is now the basic functions, or those are the basic, this basic preparation here you need to do with your pacer first to have it communicate right with my Max4Live device. Okay, so let's go to Ableton Live and let's check what's happening here. So we have the note in map here, which means it's now set up to listen to the different MIDI notes I'm sending in here. So first you need to make sure that this pacer, you need to, the pacer controller, you need to place the Max4Live device on a MIDI track. You can open and close the window here. You can change the zoom and the position. You can save the position here. Let's leave it like this for now. And let's make sure that the MIDI is set right. So in your MIDI preferences, you want to go to link tempo MIDI, and in the section below here you want to make sure that your pacer import for the track is being turned on, because we are sending MIDI into a MIDI track here. We're not using the native remote function here. So depending on how you have your pacer connected, you get two MIDI ports here. So this is the USB connection. I connected it via USB. You can do a 5-pin MIDI here as well. Then you need to activate the right MIDI port of the MIDI connection you are using here. So if you're using your Focusrite sound card or whatever, you need to activate in track here. Okay, so let's leave this to Pacer MIDI in 1. So this is the one you want to have activated. And on your MIDI track now, you will see the MIDI from. You are able to select Pacer MIDI 1. We need to make sure that the MIDI is passing through. So if the monitor is set to off, you can see that MIDI is being received, but it's not passed through into the track. So you need to switch on monitor in. So now you can see MIDI is coming through and it's being received on this track here, or you can see this on the indicators. Make sure MIDI output, the MIDI 2 is set to no output, just making sure no MIDI is floating around in the background here. Okay, so now we can check and you can see if you're pressing on the pedals here, they will and they should light up on the device here already, and you can see those buttons here are lighting up. You can click on the buttons here as well if you want to control the actions you've set up here, but obviously you want to use the MIDI pacer. So this way you can see, and if you want to check if all MIDI is being received accordingly, you can check this here, going through all the different pedals here. So the last one on the pacer, the preset button, can't be used because it's just for selecting presets internally on the pacer here. Okay, so if something is not being received, you can look onto the note in map here. So for example, we should send, the first pedal should send a C0 here. So if this is not activated and no MIDI is being received for this pedal slot, obviously this needs to be turned on. If we press S, it will detect the MIDI note coming in. So if you have a different MIDI note set up, it only will work with MIDI note on signals here. You can set this up to a different MIDI in note to react to. But if you're just following my instructions and my sysx file, loading it onto the pacer, it should all work and you shouldn't need to set up anything here for the in routing. Okay, so let's create some MIDI mapping. So you want to make sure you have the right slot selected here. Maybe let's start clean and set this all up from the beginning. So what we can do here is we can always press C for clear, so we can clear all the different mappings we currently have on this preset. Let's do this for number 2 as well. So we are starting out clean. Okay, so first you want to make sure you're selecting the right preset here. So the preset means this is your first preset for setting up controls, and you are able to automate this as well if you need to. I'm going to show this later. So first of all, let's set up a few basic functions here. So let's say and this is the action menu we got here, we are able to select between setting a note, which comes handy for live looping with my one button live looper if you want to trigger the live looper here. Again, link in the video description for a separate video on that. And you can map parameters. So for example, if I want to map, let's say the a return track here, the on and off button. So if I select this, you can see the selection here of what's being selected. It's showing you the last parameter you touched. So for example, if I want to map this switch here, I can now go to the foot pedal slot I want to map it to. Maybe let's pick just this one and click on S for sync or save. Bam, and now this pedal here is turning this A on and off button here for my A return effect. So this is if I want to map a parameter. I can set up locators here as well. So let's do this one. So if we are in arrangement, we maybe want to set up the marker 1 here, or maybe let's create a new marker. Let's call this new locator. So when you set up a new locator, you need to refresh and you get this menu here, and it's only showing you 2 markers, only the markers which were there before. If you hit refresh now, it's reading what kind of and all the different markers and locators you've set up here. And now the new locator is showing up. So if I select this one, so now I can decide which pedal should trigger or should go to the new locator I set up here. Maybe let's take this one here. So now we can see if the play marker is here, the playhead is here, and if I hit my pedal, I just set up the new locator to boom. It's taking this one. Okay, so this way you are able to set up quite a few things. You can go, let's go to session view. You can set up a scene fire, so this will fire, like play a scene. So for example, if we, and same here, if you name a scene, you need to hit refresh. So all the different names are showing up, and we have the scenes here showing which currently don't have a name. So it's showing as a no name. So to keep things clear, you can just put the names in here. So let's maybe take, this is another, and let's set this up to this one. So this is the scene fire one function. Let's take the scene select function here, select the right one, and maybe select another one, scene X on preset 2, maybe select, this is one scene. So I now set this up to the next foot pedal here. And so what's happening now? This is a scene select function here. It's not a fire function. So if I hit this one now, it's selecting the first one. If we have a different one selected, so we can see the selection is jumping to the right scene. Maybe let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see this right here. So this is one scene is being selected. It's different to the fire one. The fire one will play the scene. So as we have no MIDI clips in here, we quickly need to set up a MIDI clip into, this is another, maybe let's set up MIDI clips in every scene here we might want to use for now. So if I now hit this is another, boom, you can see it's firing the scene, it's playing the scene. Okay, so that's the difference between scene selection and scene fire. We obviously can set up navigation, scenes going scene up, scene down here as well. Plus we have some global settings here, like the tab and the metronome, transport, start, stop, record, and so on and so forth. Locator next, locator previous. If you are playing in arrangement view, this can become very, very handy. So obviously this is just one preset we've set up here now. So we could now easily go to second preset here, and we can automate this preset selection here as well. So if we go into a MIDI clip here, and you can do this in arrangement via automations as well, we could select automate preset number, and we could set up this one to select number 1. Maybe let's turn off the loop, so let's put in a name 1, so just we know that this is doing number 1, and let's do number 2 on the second one. Boom. So we are now switching, if this clip is playing, we are switching to a different preset here. So if I play this clip here, it's changing to number 1. If I play this clip here, it's changing to preset number 2. We want to work on preset number 2 now. We want to set up some different things here. Maybe let's say we want to have the metronome being turned on this one. So if I press this one now, we turn the metronome on and off, and this is listening to the state of the metronome. So if it's on, it will turn it off. If it's, if you click it or if you automate it differently, it will listen to the state and always toggle the opposite. Cool. Okay, so there is one more thing where you might want to say, well, actually, I want to have certain things set up globally. I don't want them to change every time. So maybe let's say we have the metronome here, and we don't want to have this on this one. We want to have this globally to turn the metronome on and off all the time with maybe this one here, number B. So this would be this one here. So let's set up the metronome here. Just click on S. And we have a little lock, which you can see up here. We can turn on the lock beforehand, or if we have we could turn this on afterwards. We have synced this. So now this certain function you want to trigger here is locked, and it will sit globally on all the different presets. So if we change a preset now, and if we go back to 1, you can see this is locked. Metronome is always now being operated and being switched on, switched off via the same button here. So this makes sense, and that's the last bit here where I want to show you why I have those two not showing a red bar but showing an up and a down, because I want to map those to the up and down button here globally. So what I want to do is let's set those for locking first, and then let's map this button, which is just a tiny up and down button here. Let's map those to the two foot pedals here accordingly. So let's go to the map parameter. So if we select preset down, the last one, it's showing us preset down, and we want to map this to this one here. And let's select preset up, just clicking on that, and let's map this to this button here. So now those footsteps here are controlling which preset I got selected. So I can now, without doing any automations, I can now decide on the fly, on the gig, which preset I want to select, and I can see, okay, I'm now on preset number 3, and all the mappings I set up in preset number 3 here will be used for that. Okay, so this is a really great tool, I think so, for the using Ableton Live with this foot controller here. So I think it takes a little while to get used to the concept, so that's why this video is a little bit longer, because you need to set up first the right MIDI notes I showed you in here, which you can do via loading my presets. So if you load sysx file, you select the sysx file you get when you download the Pacer Controller M4L Live plugin here. You select the slot, and you maybe just go via the import export actually, and select load file here, select the file, and then you have all the different settings. You need the different note settings here. You send it over to the Pacer, you reselect your A1 preset here, or depending on which slot you're loading it to, and then you are ready to use the foot control M4L Live plugin here from me. M4L Live is included in Ableton Live Suite, or can be bought as an add-on towards Ableton Live. So if you're interested in that, but you're not sure and you don't own M4L Live yet, you can always use and get the free Ableton Live Suite trial for 3 months. Then buy my device, check it out, and then you can see if it's worth the investment and if that makes sense for your particular use case. Okay, one more little thing. We have a momentary and toggle off button here. So this, if you are controlling and MIDI mapping, you can still do a native MIDI mapping here for going preset up and down, and you can see you got the blue points here. You could now map to an external MIDI controller if you're using a different one for some reason. If that one is not sending MIDI notes, you want to set your preset up and downs button to toggle. Okay, if you're just using my setup here, don't worry about it. It's already set to momentary, which is the one you need. Cool. Okay, have fun with the Pacer controller. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And I have a few more different MIDI controllers, foot MIDI controllers as well, where I created Max for Live devices for that using the same technique here. So if you already own a different MIDI foot controller here, you might want to check out if I released a device for that one as well. Plus, more stuff is coming here as well. Just head over to abletondrummer.com, sign up to the newsletter. I have a lot of free Max for Live devices as well. If you want to test out, hey, is this guy really doing stuff which is working? You can get free devices as well. Links in the video description. Take care. Bye bye.